intimidating.
Good evening. We will call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Today's date is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. I show the time at 6:15 p.m. Notice of this meeting has been duly posted at City Hall. So we will move on with roll call. Myself, Alder Dan Stevens, am present. Alder Tom Smith.
Present.
And Alder Stephen Knott.
Present.
We have a full room here tonight. We have Finance Director Sabrina Steger. We have Alders Stokes Wolf, Her Honor the Mayor, Alder Jurassic. We have Chief Ashbeck. We have the Assistant Fire Chief Noren. We have a whole bunch of police officers, Park Director Dan Wick, Interim City Administrator / City Attorney Amanda Jackson, and Amy Fransden. And online we have our Assistant Finance Director, what's her title? Karen Marquardt. All right, so now that we know who we are, we'll move on to consideration and action on minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
We have a motion from Smith, seconded by Knott, to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Next, we'll go to public input. Anybody wishing to address the public, anybody wishing to address the Finance and Personnel Committee may do so now. Please address the podium or make yourself known online. Second call for public input. Third and final call for public input. Hearing no public input is now closed. Consideration and possible action on the following items under item 4. Finance, we have a presentation by Dana Investments, an approval of investment management services, request for proposal or RFP. And with us today, we have Dave Maza, who is the Vice President and Director of Fixed Income Sales and Marketing, to present to us. Welcome, Dave. Oh, you could speak into the microphone, that would be great.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and talk about how we can help the city of Onalaska. Is there anything specific that you want me to cover, or?
I guess we just kind of threw you up there. I guess for the record, what we're looking to do is the city has some cash reserves that we feel are not earning as much as we could. And we still want that to be relatively safe earnings. So we put a request for proposal out there, and I think the one we're most interested in is with Dana Investments. So if you could maybe talk about your program, and then how the city would benefit, and then Sabrina, if you have thoughts that you want to add on, if anything is missed, you're more than welcome.
Sure. All right. I'll start with a little bit of background on Dana, and I think everybody got the handout. So on page 4, just gives a little bit of background on Dana. We were founded in 1980 by Mike Dana, hence our fancy name of Dana Investment Advisors. Mike has since retired and sold the firm to the employees. So we are 100% employee owned. We run all kinds of strategies, equity, fixed income. We've got just under 7 billion in assets under management, and we're headquartered right at the corner of Brookfield and Waukesha, at Gerke's Corners. The page 5, some of the awards that we won. The one that I'll point out, because I think it will reflect in the service that we can provide to the city, is Pensions and Investments magazine, which caters specifically to the money management industry, does an annual survey of best places to work. And Dana has been named one of the best places to work in money management for 10 years in a row. And we wear this as a badge of honor. It started when Mike Dana owned it, and it's continued under the current management. Management firmly believes that if we create a firm where the firm takes care of the employees, that will yield happy employees, and happy employees means great service and happy clients. And that has served us well since we started the firm back in 1980, but it's nice to have been recognized for the last 10 years by Pensions and Investments. So specifically what we can do for the city on page 6 is working with municipalities in their excess cash or their savings account, so to speak, is really where Dana has a specialty. We work with 49 municipalities, 22 counties, 2 municipal mutual insurance companies across the country. 30 of those are based here in Wisconsin, including around here, La Crosse County, and up a little bit north, the city of New Richmond. We also help manage the investments for the Cities and Villages Mutual Insurance Company, of which Onalaska is a member of. So we work with a lot of municipalities, and what we do is the operating cash, the cities work with that on their own, their checking account, their operating funds, work with the Wisconsin LGIP. Those are all great things. We work in conjunction with that, kind of the reserve cash, the savings account, so to speak. And what we do is what we've seen spelled out in Onalaska's investment policy is we focus on principal preservation, liquidity. There's always planned cash flows, but there's always unexpected cash flows. So we make sure the portfolio is built with liquidity in mind. But then, as you pointed out, we're looking for yield. We need to be good fiduciaries of the money. And so we put together an investment strategy where we can earn higher yield than other similar short investment options. And we do that through a mix of all AAA rated government secured bonds, but we put together a nice diversified portfolio of both fixed and adjustable rate bonds, government agencies, and we put them together in a nice diversified portfolio, which brings additional yield and cash flow to the city. And one of the advantages that we have is with all these municipalities that we work with, almost $1 billion in municipalities, we've got economies of scale. So even though everything we do is unique to the city, it's what we call a separately managed account. It's not a mutual fund. It's not an investment pool. It's unique to the city's liquidity needs, what their safety concerns are, what their return objectives are. But even though it's all unique, if at a very broad level, all the municipalities are kind of in the same boat. And so by working with over $1 billion for municipalities, we've got those economies of scale. So when we buy bonds, instead of you trying to buy, a $500,000 bond, we could instead buy a $10 million bond and allocate that to multiple clients, which brings that economies of scale into play, and it helps all of our clients. All the assets are held at the city's whatever bank, whatever custodian they want. If you've got a bank or a custodian, we can use that. If you want help selecting one, we can help with that. But all the securities are held in the city's name at the custodian. Dana doesn't hold any of that. That's a no-no. But what we do is we advise on the trades. The city is still responsible for that. So Dana recommends the trades. We run the trades by Sabrina. And then if those trades are okay, then we'll execute them in the city's portfolio.
And you're comfortable with that, Sabrina?
Yeah, absolutely. The committee did interview 2 of the 5 firms that submitted RFPs. And the committee did make the recommendation that we go with Dana Investments based on the RFP, all the information that was presented, and then the interviews as well.
Alder Smith.
Hey, Dave, how many employees do you have?
We've got just under 60 employees.
Are they all located in Waukesha?
Most of them are located in Waukesha. The only ones that aren't are salespeople in different parts of the country. And that's probably only 5 or 6 people.
And how do you share your, the distributions? I mean, if you sell the bonds, you make money, it's equally distributed based on the percentages that the cities buy into. Is that how that works?
Yeah, like if we would buy $10 million worth of a bond, it would actually go, like the city of Onalaska would get $1 million worth, and it's actually held in their account. So any interest earned on that goes right into the
Goes
city.
right back to.
Yeah,
so
right
we
into
get
the
that
city's
part of the
account.
piece.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a simple WAC formula, right?
Yes,
So are you a fiduciary?
we are a fiduciary, so we have to act in the city's best interest.
Okay.
And investment management is all we do. We don't do bond underwriting. We're not a broker dealer, so we have no conflicts of interest that would pull us in a different direction to sell a certain type of bond or recommend a certain custodian. All we do is investment management, so we like it that way. It keeps our interest aligned with the city's interest.
Thank you.
Yep.
Or not?
The city's funds and their investing, are they going to be impacted at all by this ESG or DIE that's so making the news recently as far as how they're invested?
No, not unless the city wanted that. We have that capability. We have some clients that like that. But unless someone asks, I would like this to have some type of ESG focus, then we don't do that. That ESG has certainly become a 4-letter word as of late. Some people love it, some people don't.
I ask what that is because I don't,
ESG is environmental, social, and governance.
okay, I
Yeah.
guess I do know what it is.
So,
Limits your investing as well.
Yeah, you focus on, okay, got it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Most of the ESG, and I know we list ESG there, most of that for Dana relates to faith-based and institutions. We run money for some religious institutions that they want the money
Sure.
invested aligned with their values.
Well, my own opinion is we should get the highest yielding, safest investment, and that would be my priority, but.
Yep.
This is kind of unique. I don't know if any of the other alders had any thoughts or questions for Dave while he was here. Okay, if we're good, I will make a motion to approve Dana Investments for the investment management services.
Second.
Motion by me, Stevens, seconded by Smith to approve Dana Investments. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda is the proposal for a second Onalaska Police Department K-9. I'm going to take liberties as chair. My understanding is that we have these sweatshirts. I bought one for my wife and she was very excited about it. Chief Ashbeck tells me there is more available. And the proceeds from these go help with our K-9 unit, but let's talk about a second K-9 unit. So Chief, are you wanting to bring this forth?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I just want to introduce or say a few words here before I bring forward the members that are going to speak tonight. So it's my honor tonight to present several of my staff members, as you see back there. This group here has formed a committee that identified a need, a problem, and then the solution. And so they've been working together over the last few months and will continue to do so likely based on what happens tonight. But they are here tonight to present this idea to you. And so I'm proud of them for the work that they've done and the time and energy they put into it. And especially for the 3 that are coming forward tonight, be the public facing group here, because I know that's not easy, but I'm again, I'm proud of them and happy to be here with them. So without further ado, I'll bring forward Sergeant Flatten, Officer Zumock, and Officer Sutton to be the voice tonight.
Welcome, officers.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it. Thank you, Chief, for the kind words. All right, so we're here to talk about the K-9 committee that was formed in November of 2022. You can see there are 8 different officers or 6 officers and 2 sergeants that have been placed on this committee, and they've all feel the same way on having a second police K-9. So the purpose of the police K-9. The K-9 committee was created in, like I said, November 2022 for the sole purpose to obtain a second police K-9. Our current officer would then be selected to become the handler. The police department currently has 1 police K-9, Miri, who's back there, and his handler, Rich Elias. Miri is going to be turning 7 next week, and according to Officer Elias, has approximately 3 years left. Currently, several Onalaska officers here are interested in this new position if it is approved. So what does a police K-9 do? A police K-9 is specifically bred service dog, which undergoes extensive training, enabling them to assist their handlers with a variety of tasks. A K-9's trained tasks include suspect tracking and apprehension, area or building searches, drug detection, article searches, enhanced officer safety, and community engagement. It also includes school safety. Throughout the course of the year, police K-9s are used at both Onalaska public and private schools for drug sniffs inside and outside the schools. Other police departments have assisted with these school sniffs in the past. So you ask, why a second K-9? The current K-9 works from 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. A second K-9 would add additional coverage to the city after 2:30 p.m. A second K-9 would overlap with Miri's career, ensuring that the city has a continuous K-9 officer. A second K-9 would provide additional drug safety in the community and at the schools. A second K-9 would mainly work second or third shifts based on the selected handler's seniority. Both shifts have a significant increase in calls for service and need. A second K-9 would prevent having to rely on other departments for their use of their K-9 during second or third shifts, increasing response times and effectiveness. The average work life of a working K-9 is about 10 years, give or take about 3 years, depending on the breed.
All right. So like Officer Zumock said, our current K-9 is on first shift, so that leaves second and third shift without a K-9 in the police department. So that requires us to look elsewhere in other jurisdictions for that. So in 2022, Onalaska Police Department utilized Holman's K-9 14 times, the city of La Crosse's K-9 19 times, state patrols twice. And a thing to keep in mind with using other jurisdictions K-9s, it comes with a significant drawback. When an officer conducts a traffic stop on a vehicle and has what we would call a hunch that the vehicle has drugs, narcotics, contraband, we are required to conduct the K-9 sniff within the stop. We cannot extend that stop by a single second just to accommodate a K-9 coming from another jurisdiction to deploy it around the vehicle to see if it has a positive alert. So without having a K-9 at the department that works the same jurisdiction as you, I kind of equate it to fighting with one hand behind your back. It's restrictive. And between mid-November of 2022 and the end of the year, K-9 was requested but unavailable 7 times. So that not only means Onalaska, that means all the jurisdictions within La Crosse County, and at times even Trempealeau County and Monroe County. So here we have some statistics of contraband that was able to be located and removed from the community because of a positive K-9 alert. There's quite the list there, but I'll just point out 3 things. The first one, just shy of 30 grams of fentanyl, approximately $3,000 street value in this area. And obviously fentanyl is known as, the very potent thing that comes along in a lot of overdoses, and it's only increasing in potency and unfortunately leading to more overdoses where Narcan isn't as effective, or it's just you need a lot more of it, unfortunately, just because the potency now. And then the second item there, you have just shy of 64 grams of methamphetamine worth approximately $1,000. And then one last thing, there's a firearm and weapons listed in there. And those aren't things that canines aren't necessarily to detect to as far as drug related, but those are things that we come across in subsequent to a positive canine alert. So it's not just drug related things that we find in these vehicles. It involves a lot more than that. So here we have listed a few other jurisdictions that have multiple police canines. Holman currently has one, but they will have another coming in the near future. The same goes for the city of Toma. They currently have one with a second arriving soon. Prairie du Chien has 2 canines. Sparta has 2 canines. La Crosse, obviously a little bit larger than the city of Onalaska. They have 6. And Trempealeau and Monroe County have 2. And just a few things that I guess I want to highlight. The city of Toma, Prairie du Chien, Sparta, these are areas that are smaller than Onalaska. They serve a smaller population and in some cases a smaller area. But they obviously have the need to service 2 dogs.
Thank you, Tanner. Next, we're going to move on to the finances of a second canine. The city does not budget for the police department's canine unit. The canine program operates completely on donations and fundraising. Currently, the canine program receives most of its funds from the annual canine golf tournament and clothing sales, such as the sweater that Alder Stevens held up. If a second canine is approved by the city, the canine, the initial training costs, and equipment would be fundraised entirely by the Onalaska Police Department officers. The current canine account funds would remain solely for Canine Murray and his replacement. Dr. Kratt from the Central Animal Hospital is committed to providing free veterinary care to a second canine, same as they have provided for the current Canine Murray and previous canine Jack. So continuing with the topic of finances, a new squad car that would be outfitted for this position would cost approximately $85,000. The purchase of the dog and the training of the dog with the officer would be approximately $15,000. An additional equipment for this position, such as our Vision Mobile dispatching license for our computers in that squad car and the kennel for the dog, would be an approximate $10,000 cost. So we are estimating an approximate $110,000 that we would need to fundraise for this position. And then some ongoing costs to the city. So we would have squad fuel and vehicle maintenance, which would be approximately $4,000 annually that would be incurred to the city. 30 minutes of pay per day off for the canine care for that canine handler, which would average to 1.25 hours a week, and additional vehicle insurance for that new squad. So cost versus reward, we deem that as a minimal cost incurred to the city versus the amount to be fundraised overall. Additional community safety, engagement, criminal apprehension, and drugs removed from our community, again, being a high reward versus the cost. So the next step, the department is seeking approval for this additional canine handler position. If approved, we will begin the next step of fundraising for the position and equipment. So we've outlined some fundraising opportunities that we brainstormed together through a couple of our meetings. I'll go over those with you. Some of these are general or kind of generic, and as things progress, we would become more detail oriented on how we would execute each one. So we've considered doing raffles, obtaining grants, performing a chicken queue or other food type sale, similar to what our police reserve unit does each summer. Doing a bingo fundraiser, restaurant sales fundraising, canine unit clothing sales, direct donations for businesses and individuals, utilization of an online platform such as GoFundMe or Give Butter, and then promoting our cause on the department Facebook page to further the awareness. So at this point, we seek any questions you may have. Otherwise, we do appreciate and thank you for your time.
Old or not?
Yeah, a couple. Do we have to pay for outside canine support when they're called in from outside agencies?
We do not.
Okay. I know that there are some federal and state installations not too far away that don't have canine support, and in the past, when they need it, they do contract that out. Is that something that's even an option for a municipality? I think normally have gotten from either state or maybe even the county that they reside on. And maybe to help offset the ongoing costs is what I'm thinking of.
I guess, could you elaborate what you mean by contracting it?
They literally will pay because the installation down the road, for instance, not too far away, has no canine. So they will pay for an outside law enforcement agency to come in and maybe work the gate or a special project that they're working on. Now, some of that would be explosive dogs too, but they absolutely do drug dogs, and they actually pay for that service. And I'm wondering if that's something that the municipality would even be allowed to do. And yes.
Amanda.
Possibly, but I think that part of the issue is that what we use our canine for is quite frequently these traffic stops. And with that, part of the problem is with using even an outside agency is that issue of extending the stop. We really need the canine there when we make the stop in order to stay within the confines of the law, to have it be a legal stop and a legal deployment. And so by having to have an officer come from a different jurisdiction, or even if we had to contract out, we're really getting into that area of extending the stop and having it not be a legal stop. And so really the only way to solve that issue is to have a canine on second and or third shift.
Does La Crosse County have any canines? I saw you had up there with Monroe and Trempealeau.
They do, I believe, is that they currently have one.
They've got one right now.
One.
Yeah, it's just, and he just got it, probably 3 months ago prior to the other one.
Okay, and I'm understanding that the officer handler, we're just going to transition a current existing position into a canine. We're not asking for an additional position.
Correct.
Okay, that's the way I understood it.
Alder Smith.
As we proceed here and if we get this approved and move on, what's your time frame on this? So I mean, it sounds like it's gonna take some time to get this, plus getting the dog and training. You have an idea what the time frame is?
I think our goal would probably be to raise the funds within a year to year and a half, and to have that dog, because we don't want to be approaching on that 3-year mark where Miri goes and we get approved for the second dog. We don't want 2 dogs that both have the same career. We want to have some overlap in the two working dogs.
So that kind of, to build on that, one of the questions I had was, were we looking for continuity for when Miri retires? Or is this like, as when Miri retires, would we then start the process of working on getting the next second dog?
So when Miri retires, we are automatically going to replace him. We're looking to have a second and permanent canine to kind of coincide with him, again, hopefully overlap. So when Miri retires, we'll have one already on the road working already. So we don't have a complete lapse of canine coverage. And then by the time Miri's replacement is up and on the streets, we'll still have X amount of years left in the effective new canine to continue that overlap and rotation.
Then another question here. So if the officer position would then become a second canine officer position, maybe this question is for Chief, will that affect the duty roster, or will one of the patrol cars be another canine unit?
Yeah, this officer would be assigned to regular patrol, just as Officer Elias is now. So they would, fulfill normal duties throughout the day, just as all the other officers with the additional canine duties.
Stephen,
Yeah, I guess the real nuts and bolts now, and the last questions I have. It's basically goes to slide 12, which is the ongoing cost of the city. Okay, the $4,000 is annotated for the fuel and maintenance. We talk the vehicle insurance for a new squad car, approximately how much is that for one car right now?
It's not significant.
Okay, and then the 30 minutes each day off for canine care, is that cost you're saying is the time, or is there an additional dollar cost associated with that?
That is part of, I guess you'd say, the wages built in already.
Okay.
So it's 30 minutes of pay essentially, but it's already budgeted for.
Oh.
I mean,
Okay, so there's no additional cost.
correct.
I would assume it's like time away for, you gotta let the dog out and stretch his legs, go to the bathroom and.
So it's a time. call.
Essentially, the officers are scheduled 8.5 hours a day, and the canine officer would work an 8-hour day to build in for that half-hour of canine care to make it 8.5.
So we'd have to come up with somehow in future budgets, an additional 4,000 and change for the insurance cost as well. So call it maybe 5K total.
And Amanda, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna go back a little bit. So as the officers alluded to, there is a fund already set up for Miri. So the funds in that account will transfer to the new canine when Miri passes. And so because part of, if you notice, the largest portion of this is the squad vehicle. And so we already have that for Miri. And so when Miri passes away, we're really just looking at the.
Here, retires.
Sorry.
He's gonna live forever.
When Mary retires, which is more likely to happen first, then we're going to need to just basically fund the replacement of the dog, possibly a kennel, but it'll be a significantly less costly than it will to have a second canine. So that's where the bulk of this fundraising comes. So this does add a new squad vehicle to our rotation as well. That is not something that we would currently have budgeted. And it may not end up being that the brand new squad ends up being the canine vehicle squad. It may just free up another squad to become the canine vehicle squad. But it would add another vehicle that we don't currently have in our rotation, if that makes sense.
But I thought the vehicle cost was going to be paid for through fundraising.
Correct.
Okay, well, it's another vehicle, but
Yes,
it's not coming out of the budget of the city.
it is not coming out of the budget for the city. It also may be that we purchase a new vehicle that may go into our rotation and then we take an existing vehicle and that becomes the canine vehicle. That makes sense.
So-
Can I just expand on that? Essentially, I guess what we're proposing is because we are adding a squad to the fleet, we feel we should fundraise for that to come up with funds initially. So that squad gets added to the fleet. A typical canine vehicle can last over 10 years. Our current canine vehicle, I think, is a 2013. And, because it's dedicated to one person and it can last a lot longer. So our thoughts would be the fundraising pays for this initial vehicle and then it's in the fleet. So in 10 years from now, that vehicle would be replaced through the normal vehicle process. We wouldn't fundraise again in 10 years for that vehicle.
Okay, well, that's a cost, yeah.
So I mean, I guess I kind of have mixed emotions. I think it's great that the community is willing to support this, and I believe that the police officers would be able to fundraise. But whether you view a canine police dog as an implement or a tool or a member of the force, I just don't know that I think we should have city workers going out having to beg hat in hand for the tools to do their job. I am supportive of the canine unit. And the reason that that we rely on public funding is I think the public's willing to do it and we frankly don't have the other, I mean, there's not other money to be had. So on one hand, if the department thinks that they can fundraise this, why not? I mean, I don't have any objection, but I think it begs the question, the bigger question is, should they have to fundraise for this? And if the need is there, I don't know where we would pull the funds from, and there's no easy answer, but I don't think that we should have to have departments fundraise for the tools of their job, I guess is my thought. So I don't have the solution though, aside from letting them do the fundraising.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I mean, I think that it really is something that we should need to look at in the future. I mean, I think future councils are gonna have to look at, there's a way that we can move forward in doing that, but I think we need to progress and get that done for now, and this is probably the best way to get the ball rolling. But in the future, I think future councils, when we start looking at how can we better do this, I mean, it is, to me, it's like, well, this is something we should probably be looking at doing. Just because it's something that's needed and it gives our officers the tools that they need to do their job. So, but I understand the budget is the issue, so, but I don't think we want to stop it. So I think we support what we're doing, but I think we do need to find other avenues or at least have future discussions with future councils on how we can best maybe compromise and find the best of both worlds.
Stephen.
Well, the reality today is we probably can find $5,000 inside of a budget in the future. I have no clue where 110 would come from. We don't have it. So if we're going to support this, it's going to have to be with the understanding that we'll have to continue with the great good works and goodwill of the police department and the committee. But I will also say that going to outside sources to fund certain emergency services, to include canines, is not uncommon. It is not uncommon. Yeah, you've seen the head nods here too. So we're not doing something here that is unusual or overly burdensome. A lot of departments do this in order to increase their ability to do their job. Yeah, so, and personally, I think a canine unit is exponential in its benefits. So, yeah.
What's the work life years for the dog? How many, when you expect a dog to come on board, how long is the life span of the work?
Well, I brought Miri on when most dogs start right about 18 months to 2 years. And depending on the dog's ability to stay healthy, they'll work anywhere till they're 9, 10, 11, even 12 years old. So there's a lot of variables in there. Miri turns 7 next week, as they said earlier. He still acts like he did when he was 18 months old. So again, as long as he stays healthy, I don't see a problem with getting another 2, 3, 4 years out of him.
So when we talk about the $110,000, that's basically kind of for the training, that's like kind of per dog for the life of the dog, right? Or is that annually?
That's for the vehicle. That's the big thing. So when I talked to our vendor down in Berrien Springs, Michigan, it's $13,000 as of this spring. When I talked to him, it was $13,000, which it was when we got Miri, for the dog of our choice that he has down there, and then the training, where the city would have to cover the officer's wages, and then whatever the per diem is for food, because they'll be living in Michigan for 6 weeks. There's a facility at the kennel that we use, a house now. There wasn't when I went through, but there's a house that's been renovated, so the boarding is free. They just stay in the house at the site where they train the dogs. So it would be 13 grand plus the per diem for the food, and then the officer's wages while he's away, which is already something that was being paid. And then after the 6 weeks, the officer would come back with the dog and hit the road.
I guess where I'm going with this is kind of like you said, I mean, we could find $5,000. Coming up with $110,000 is a stretch. But if we want to commit to the program, like at 110 over 10 years, it's like $11,000. I think we need to find a way to just work that into the budget going forward, and eventually we just segregate it as a general ledger account. Amanda?
I mean, the one thing I was going to say is ultimately, if I am optimistic in their fundraising ability, but in the event I am too optimistic, there will have to be a conversation about at what point is the city, or would the city be willing to contribute to the purchase of the squad car out of equipment replacement funds.
Stephen again?
Yeah, that That'll be a hard conversation. We're gonna have probably more information available to us, reference the budget before we can make that decision. You know, what would be the cutoff to where we can't go above X amount?
And that's a conversation for a future day, but
Yeah.
there are ways that if we need to at some point, the city could support this.
But it's, again, I do want to reiterate, the fundraising is not unusual. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it when you go into cities where they'll have the thermometer right when you're entering town, that's showing how far they are in fundraising for the new fire truck, you know. So all the emergency services do this to some degree in multiple municipalities.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely they do.
Yeah.
But I think the question though is how much time do we want them?
Yeah.
Whether, I assume not on the clock, but even off time. How often should our public safety officials be engaged in fundraising for their
Got it.
job? And I mean, so like the golf thing, I'm not a golfer, but I hear it's very popular. I know a lot of, my wife was insistent that I get her this sweatshirt. She found Chief Aspect and hunted him down, and now we have it. But so there's things that we can do. The question is, where do we draw the line and say, you know, you guys, you done enough? So, and maybe that's a question for another day. I think we're getting a little off here, so. So at this point, are you just looking for kind of a head nod from council to go forward? Sabrina?
Thank you. If I could just add, one way we could potentially help fund this is we could let them fundraise for the rest of 2023. And then at the end of 2023, when we're taking a look at budget,
Yeah.
we do have a surplus. The council could make a recommendation at that time to give them a portion of the surplus towards this project.
Chair, I think working the final decision for us and the common council into the budget process makes total sense. Yeah.
We're not able to write the check now
Right.
anyway. So, I mean, this is, if we want that second dog, that's kind of what's going to have to happen. But I think it's a good strategy and it's at least a good discussion and well, why don't we do need a motion on this though, right? So
I'll make a motion that we approve proceeding with the proposal presented for the second Onalaska Police Department K-9 as presented tonight.
Second.
a motion from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to add a second dog, second canine unit, and everything that's entailed with the presentation. Any discussion?
Nice job, guys. It was very,
Oh.
very well done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It passes. I'm gonna say, let's put this on the non-consent just because we've talked about a lot of different things and different angles. And this will give the rest of council a chance to kind of weigh in and
Would you like them to repeat the entire presentation again, or do you simply want to have a discussion?
well, do you like being in front of the, I mean, it's not necessary, but everybody, but
I think it would be good for the whole council to see it and also the public viewing
more
audience. 'cause
people might see
Not everybody, the public watches the finance. I know, but
Everybody's here.
the public watches more of the council meeting, than they do the
Maybe
finance
it's
committee.
Here for questions.
So
or just have Mary come and like,
Either way.
Mark wants if we should do this.
it's a good topic, though. I think it's gonna get a lot of support.
If you're not comfortable, I'm fine if you don't, but if you'd like to present it to the public again, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, thank you, guys. See ya.
All right, so let's go to item 6, talk about the 2023 general fund financials. And for this, we go to Sabrina.
All right, thank you, Chair. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 15, is the general fund financials through one whole month of 2023. I don't really have a lot to report out on here. It's everything looks pretty straightforward as of right now. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on our first month of 2023.
Make a go ahead, Steve.
I have no questions.
Make a motion that we approve the 2023 general fund financials and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve and place on file the 2023 general fund financials For discussion, Sabrina, I think we're gonna make it through the end of the year.
It's really early to tell.
One down, 11 to go. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Moving on to item 7, the 2023 Omni Center financials.
All right, so next in your packet, starting on page 33, is the Omni Center financials. The first couple pages showing the balance sheet for the Omni Center. And then behind that, starting on page 35, is the budget report. Again, we are in only our first month through 2023. One thing I would note, we did really have a good January in regards to ICE, already 46,000, which is good to see. Otherwise, everything else is pretty straightforward in regards to the Omni Center.
Pretty slick. Older or not?
Good news question, I guess. I know it's only 1 month and a snapshot in time and not every month is expected to have the same revenues. But I mean, that's 87.71% remaining, meaning that 12.29% has already been, and the revenues I'm talking about has already come in. That's substantially above a steady glide path, if you will. Is that more than what we expected for this month? Or is that where we're depending on January being especially good income or revenue provider, I guess?
I'll let Dan talk more about it, but just with conversations with
Good news,
Justin.
good news question.
Yeah, just conversations with Justin and I know he was really happy with the amount of ICE sales that they had in January, but I'll let Dan talk about anything else.
The month of January is pretty consistent with it. You know, January, February, then when we hit, you know, now we have no ice. We took a sheet or rink 1 out Sunday and Monday. So now we're in our dry floor season. So you won't see the revenue, especially in the ice rental, but the dry floor events, you'll see that stuff pick up now as we have 2 dry floor events this weekend.
So it's about what you were expecting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion that we approve the Omni Center financials and place them on file.
Second,
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve and place on file the 2023 Omni Center financials. Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Financials are approved. Item 8, let's talk about to designate the funds in the equipment replacement funds. Sabrina, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, thank you. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 38, there is a memo in here from Park and Recs Director Dan Wick. Kind of the norm lately is that we order something or we have a bid for something, and especially with vehicles, we're looking many months out. So for 2022, there was budgeted for parks in the equipment replacement fund for them to purchase a Ford Ranger. They did order that in July of 2022, but we still don't know the build date for that. So we're hoping that we get it in 2023 and that this isn't canceled. But in the event that we would get it, I'm asking that you designate that $31,822 for the funds from 2022 that they weren't able to receive the truck yet. So I'm just asking that they're able to continue going forward with that purchase for 2023.
So this is money that was already spent. It just, there's no truck
Obligated.
yet.
Correct.
Is the truck, will it be a 2022 model or is it going to be a 2020? Like, is it a truck that's mostly built and doesn't have a seat cushion or a chip, or is it?
I don't think
No,
it's.
I mean,
been
it's,
built
or is it
at
a
all
new,
yet.
it's gonna be a 2023?
I don't believe it's been built at all.
Yeah, when we ordered it, we used the state bid price of 2022, but then they went, so that's why this truck was actually scheduled to be a 3/4 ton truck. But the price went up about $20,000 on that, so we went with a Ranger who was on our vehicle replacement plan. So this will be a 2023. But like it said in the memo, we ordered it July 12th when it was open. And they still, I check in once a month with them. They still don't even have a build date when they think it may be built. We actually have we have a Ford Ranger in this year's budget to get, to get in. And they don't even know if they're gonna open them up at all this year, that we can actually even order it.
I'll move that we approve the moving of 2022 obligated or 22 budgeted funds for a Ford Ranger, $31,822 to carry over into 2023 budget year.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to carry over the funds for the Ford Ranger into the current budget. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes. We will go to item 9, designate funds for assessments outstanding. This really sounds like a Sabrina thing.
Yeah, so in your packets tonight on page 39, I did put a memo in here. We currently have 3 big box stores that are in litigation regarding their property assessments. The city's past practice has been to designate some fund balance to assist in possible litigation costs related to the disagreements with these box stores. After discussions with our interim city administrator, we did decide to designate $100,000 of our fund balance that's available at the end of 2022 to be for these illegal assessments. If we don't need that, it'll just go to the regular fund balance account. There's no hurt in really designating this. It will just help us next year in 2023 if we do have any litigation costs, things of that nature.
So to be clear, it's not that we expect that there's going to be $100,000, but in the event that something pops up, then it's allocated and it's there.
Correct.
I'll move to designate $100,000 in account 100-34217 towards possible litigation costs with disagreements over assessed values.
Second.
Motion from Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to designate the specified funds for the assessments outstanding. Is that specific enough?
So that would be for legal costs if we had to challenge that.
Yeah.
It's legal costs and also cost for like if the assessments go down, then that's like funds that we won't receive
Okay,
essentially.
So it could be either or.
Correct.
This would be a question for Amanda. So if this does, these will be like a court case, and if they're found that the assessments are not accurate, is that are these like negotiated, or is this something that a judge would say, no, this is too high, it was X and it should be Y?
It could go either way.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That has passed, and we will go on to the reserve funds for the Omni Center rebranding.
All right, this is me again. So on page 40 in your packets, I have a memo in here as well. The Omni Center received some funding from La Crosse County, $75,000 in 2022 for the rebranding project. At the end of 2022, they had expensed $27,875 of that $75,000. Therefore, I'm just asking that we reserve the remaining $47,125 to complete the rebranding process. And then the account that we would put it in is 640-34148 reserved retained earnings. Essentially, instead of all of their, instead of that $47,000 going into their traditional fund balance account, it will go into reserved for this project. Because this was money that was given to us by La Crosse County for that purpose. And
They can't be spent on something that's not that.
correct, then this is just essentially for for my purposes, I can't just move that money. I need council's approval to move it to reserved. So that's where I'm coming to you for.
I'll move that we. See, where is it? I'll move that we reserve the remaining $47,125 in the Omni Center rebranding project funds in account 640-34148 for use in future Omni Center rebranding project requirements.
Second,
An ugly way of saying it, but I think I got it.
Motion by Alder Knott, second by Alder Smith to move the reserve funds into account 640-34148.
that's a special reserve count that was set up for that.
It's just a reserve fund balance for the Omni. There's nothing else in there. It'll be in our minutes and in documentation that $47,000 is for the rebrand, and likely those funds will be used in 2023. So then that'll clear that account out in 2023.
All right, thank you.
All right, all those in favor of moving the reserve funds?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. And then item 11 is a correction of errors by, oh wait, we just did that.
Yep.
Same thing.
There's no memo for this one.
Okay, so take it away, Sabrina.
Thank you. So I just wanted to bring to the attention of the committee and to the council that with the reevaluation that happened in 2022, there are some items that have come forward where people did not make it in to see the assessor before the Board of Review or even during the Board of Review. And there's been items that the assessor has deemed that they did make an error and that have come forward to myself and to Joanne. Essentially, the process, how that works is the assessor will talk to the homeowner and will, if there's grossly overstated items, which the ones we've seen have been pretty grossly overstated, then the assessor, if they believe what has happened is incorrect, they submit what's called a correction of error form to the city. And then we take that form and we refund the property tax owner whatever the difference is in their property tax bill. And then we fill out a form with the state to ask for a refund of property taxes, because even though we are refunding the property tax owner, I still have to pay the portion that's due to the Onalaska School District, to the County of La Crosse, the Holman School District, and to Western Technical College. So that's kind of how the process works. There's been a lot this year, and I just wanted the committee to be aware that we are looking at about $56,000. So what will happen is I will have to pay that out to the other jurisdictions within our taxing authority. And then in 2024, I'll get a check from those jurisdictions to make me whole. And then our portion will be made whole through our levy with the state. So I just want you to be aware that that is what is going on and that it is a large dollar amount. We have had these in the past where we've had correction of errors, but it hasn't been to this extent. So I felt that it was worthy of bringing to the attention of the committee and to the council.
So you did mention that these happen from time to time, and I know that the appraisal company is relatively newer than one that the city has traditionally had in the past. Is the larger scale of the errors a product of the newness or lack of familiarity, or is this something we're going to want to take a harder look at? Because
Well-
that sounds like it's a lot of work for your department.
Yeah, it is, both myself and Joanne. And it's definitely something that we need to evaluate as we near the end of our contract with our current assessor. It's something that we should keep in mind. that there were a lot of discrepancies. I don't know if Amanda, you have anything to add? I don't really know a lot about past practice since I've been here, we've only been with Accurate, so.
I mean, we've had issues in the past with other assessors, and so I don't know that anybody's perfect. But to Sabrina's point, I just think it's something we should know.
Stephen?
So I understand you're saying we're going to be made financially whole in 2024,
Correct,
but we're going to take a hit this fiscal year.
correct.
And how do we do that? I mean, is this something you've already figured out? I mean, 56,000 is a significant portion of our budget, so.
Right, so we hope that at the end of the year, we have enough in other revenues and less expenses to still come in under budget.
Okay,
This is
so
something
you're
that we
planning
have
on
to pay out.
revenues offsetting this.
Hopefully, that will happen.
All right.
Otherwise, it's gonna be the alderperson car wash.
Yeah, we'll
Like-
be, coming up all the
Fundraiser.
Yeah, you guys get to fund
Have our own fundraiser. Right?
All right, well, thank you for the update.
Yep.
Well, that will conclude the finance portion. We will proceed with the personnel portion. Amy, you've only got one item on there. Maybe we should have done you first.
Good evening. Yes, that would have been nice, but no, that's perfectly fine. It was
All
good
good for
information
that.
to sit through. So yes, not a lot going on as far as other items other than recruitment. We've got a number of employment opportunities available at the city of Onalaska at various stages. We currently filled one of our regular firefighter EMT positions, which brings our fire department up to full staff. And then working on a number of other various opportunities. We've got an offer extended for our assistant municipal court, likely have a start date next week. We've got one of our public works maintenance workers also starting this month, and then 2 others underway in that offer process. We have 2 internal postings, one for our police investigator and one for our public works maintenance cemetery position. And we're making progress and moving forward with both of those internal opportunities. We've got eligibility lists currently for fire and police underway. And we are obviously reviewing candidates for our sales and marketing city administrator. And we are accepting applications currently for our IT director and our event specialists.
Does anybody have any questions for Amy Franston? Well, thank you, Amy. Now I feel really bad because that was like a minute, but next time. All right, item 13 is adjournment. How do we feel about that?
I'll move to adjourn.
And we'll second.
Motion by Alder Knott, second by Alder Smith to adjourn. The time is. That's what-
7:18.
Call it, I got 7:18.
That's exactly right.
We're gonna go with 7:18 PM. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.